Yeah, you know, took many penalties. People say to score penalties, but I'm not going to miss the penalties, am I? Touch wood.
In the summer of 2023, a 20-year-old left one of the greatest football clubs in the world.
He's going to go it alone. And what a decision it was. Lovely goal from Cole Palmer.
Not because he was released, not because he failed, but because, despite everything, despite the talent, despite the belief of the coaching staff,
To turn, Cole Palmer!
despite years of work inside an elite academy, he simply couldn't get on the pitch. 12 months later, that same player had just produced one of the most remarkable individual attacking seasons the Premier League had seen in years.
What a trick from Palmer! Superb! The finish is almost...
The same player, the same technique, the same football brain. Completely different story. How? That's the question at the heart of Cole Palmer's rise.
Can he get his first Chelsea goal? The answer to both questions is emphatically yes.
And the answer, when you really dig into it, says something important, not just about Palmer, but about how football talent works and what happens when potential finally finds the right environment. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Because to understand where Cole Palmer is now, you first need to understand where he came from and the wall he had to get through to get here. Cole Palmer was born in Wythenshawe in South Manchester in 2002. It's a part of the city that's produced football talent before. And in Palmer's case, the signs were there from the very beginning. He joined Manchester City's academy at around 8 years old. That's an environment where thousands of kids come through the gates every season, and only a handful ever make it out the other side with a professional contract. The system is unforgiving. The standards are relentless. But Palmer didn't just survive in that environment, he stood out. Coaches noticed his technical ability early. His touch was clean. His passing was intelligent. And there was a calmness about him that you can't really coach into a player. Either they have it or they don't. At every age group, the reports were the same. Technically gifted, composed under pressure, thinks 2 moves ahead. He progressed steadily through the youth ranks year by year, earning a reputation as one of the most technically gifted players in City's entire academy system. The question was never whether he was good enough. The question was whether he'd ever get to prove it. Palmer eventually earned his senior debut under Pep Guardiola, and let that sink in for a moment.
Here comes Cole Palmer, who decides to go himself, scores his first ever goal as a Manchester City player.
Making your first team debut under arguably the greatest club manager of his generation is not something that happens to ordinary players. Guardiola doesn't hand out opportunities out of sentiment. If you're in that squad, you're there because the coaching staff believes in you. Palmer was given his chance, glimpses of it, at least, in cup competitions and late substitutions. And in those moments, he delivered. There were flashes of brilliance, goals, assists, moments that made you lean forward and think, wait, who is that? But the problem wasn't talent. The problem was context. In over 1,200 total minutes across his entire Manchester City career, Palmer still managed around 8 goal contributions. Let's do the maths on those numbers.
Yes! A Champions League goal!
For reference, 8 goal contributions in 1,200 minutes is a decent return for any player. But Palmer wasn't getting those minutes consistently. He was being drip-fed opportunities in a squad so deep, so talented, that even world-class players sometimes struggled to hold down a regular spot. To understand Palmer's situation at City, you have to understand the squad he was competing in. This wasn't just a good Premier League team. This was one of the greatest club sides ever assembled. Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Phil Foden, Riyad Mahrez. In the positions Palmer was competing for, creative midfielder, right winger, attacking roles, he was looking at some of the most decorated players in world football. Men in their prime, men who had won Champions League medals, Premier League titles, individual awards at the highest level. When your competition for a starting spot includes Kevin De Bruyne, you are not getting into that team on promise alone, no matter how good you are. And here's the cruel irony of elite academies. They produce players who are exceptional, but the clubs they're produced by are often the very clubs that can't give them the platform they need. The squad is too good. The competition is too fierce. The opportunities are too few. Palmer found himself in football's version of a catch-22. He needed game time to develop and prove himself. But to get game time at Manchester City, he'd already need to be at his best. It was a loop with no obvious exit. Until September 2023, Chelsea came calling. The fee was around £40 million, a significant sum for a player who, on paper, had limited senior experience. And the reaction at the time was mixed, to put it politely. Was this a gamble? Probably yes. Was it a risk? Absolutely.
Ready?
When you pay $40 million for a player whose Premier League starts, you could count on one hand there are legitimate questions to be asked. But Chelsea, rebuilding under a new ownership structure and experimenting with a new football philosophy, saw something in Palmer that the raw statistics couldn't fully capture. They saw a player who was ready, who had been ready, and simply hadn't been given the opportunity to show it. £40 million. At the time, it looked like a bet. By January, it already looked like theft. Stop.
Palmer driving it, it's in! Palmer's perfect penalty! Cole Palmer, time to smash it, brilliant!
Before we go any further, let's actually look at what changed, because the numbers tell a story that no amount of narrative can fully capture. At Manchester City, roughly 1,200 total minutes across his entire career at the club. 8 goal contributions, fragments of opportunity, scattered across cup games and late appearances. A player existing at the edges of one of the world's best squads. Manchester City, approximately 1,200 minutes, 8 goal contributions, across his entire career at the club. Then Chelsea, 1 season, regular football, real responsibility.
Sends the goalkeeper the wrong way, and Chelsea go in front.
Chelsea, 2023-2024, 22 Premier League goals, 11 assists, over 30 goal contributions across all competitions in a single season. To put that into context, only Erling Haaland scored more Premier League goals that season. Palmer finished level with or ahead of established elite attackers, players years older with far more senior experience. Mohamed Salah, Son Heung-min, players who had spent a decade building to numbers like that.
So a debut for the new boy, Cole Palmer, fresh from his move from Manchester City.
Cole Palmer did it in year 1, at 21, at a club still finding its feet under a new ownership group. Same player, same brain. The only thing that changed was the opportunity. Palmer arrived at Chelsea and was given something he'd rarely experienced at City: consistent, regular minutes, a starting berth, real responsibility, and the freedom to express himself in an attacking system built around his qualities.
Palmer driving it, it's in! It's in for 4-3!
The results were immediate. Goals started coming. Assists started stacking up. Chelsea, a club in transition, suddenly had a player capable of deciding matches on his own. He became Chelsea's primary penalty taker. And here's what's interesting about that. It's not just about the goals, it's about the composure. Stepping up from 12 yards at Stamford Bridge, with the game on the line, at 21 years old, and doing it with the serenity of a 10-year veteran. That's not something you develop overnight. That's character. So what makes Palmer so effective? Because it's not simply a case of a good player being unleashed. There's a specific tactical profile here that helps explain why he thrives in the way he does. Palmer is most naturally an attacking midfielder, a number 10 in classical terms. But he has the versatility to play wide on the right, cutting inside onto his stronger foot as an inverted winger. And crucially, he can operate between the lines in ways that create genuine problems for defenders. What sets him apart isn't pace. It isn't raw physicality. It's intelligence. He reads space before it exists. He positions himself in the half-second gap between the opposition's defensive and midfield lines, collecting the ball in areas where defenders are neither comfortable nor committed. By the time they've decided how to approach him, he's already made his decision. The best technical players don't outrun defenders. They outthink them, and Palmer outthinks nearly everyone. Add to that his composure under pressure, that trademark calm that coaches noticed when he was still a teenager. And you have a player who becomes more dangerous precisely when the game is at its most intense. Tight matches, late moments, high-stakes situations. These are the conditions that expose lesser players. For Palmer, they seem to bring out his very best. His creativity and vision allow him to unlock defenses with through balls, disguise passes, and late runs into the box that goalkeepers and defenders simply don't track until it's too late. He doesn't just create, he creates for himself, then acts on what he's created. It's a complete attacking package. Here's the thing about Cole Palmer's story that goes beyond the statistics, beyond Chelsea, beyond even this season. He is 21 years old. Let that sit with you. The player who produced one of the most impressive individual attacking seasons in recent Premier League memory is still, by football standards, just getting started. The question now isn't whether Palmer can reach the top. He's already there. The question is how much further he can go, and there are very few obvious ceilings. At 21, with an entire career ahead of him, already one of the Premier League's most productive attackers. For Chelsea, he represents something they've been searching for since the era of Hazard, a player around whom an identity can be built, not just a squad option, not just a contributor, a face, a focal point, the kind of player who makes other players better simply by being on the pitch. For England, the conversation is already underway. A generation of talented attacking players is competing for international spots. But Palmer's combination of creativity, composure, and goal threat offers something genuinely different. Something that could make him a central figure for the national team for the next decade. And for the rest of the Premier League, a warning perhaps, because Cole Palmer has been given the one thing he needed most, and we're only just beginning to see what he can do with it. Nobody handed Palmer a transformation. There was no tactical reinvention, no sudden physical leap, no secret unlocked behind closed doors. He simply walked into a club that gave him the ball and said, "Show us what you can do." The talent was always there. Cole Palmer simply needed the opportunity. And now that he has it, there may be no stopping him.